record revenue per user, that's great, but riders not as high as expected. What is your outlook for the road ahead, given that Omicron is, it seems, waning, but we could still be seeing new waves of the virus?
Yeah, so for the full year, this year, we expect even faster growth than what we saw last year. So we're quite excited about that. Excited to see the health conditions improving so that certain states are removing the mask mandate when they feel like it's safe to do so. Hard to predict in the near term how quickly the recovery will happen, which is why we said we're cautiously optimistic for that broad recovery, but unknown exactly how that's going to impact the rest of Q1 and even touch on Q2.
Now, Uber just beat on almost everything, and there's a thought that they could have the upper hand given their scale in rides and eats. Are you at all concerned about alienating users if prices stay elevated?
Well, I'm not familiar. I haven't been able to follow what they're reporting on today. But one thing to think about in Q4 when you're talking about pricing is that there were a lot more, the ride mix changes. So you're not necessarily looking at a like-for-like ride from Lyft in Q4 or Lyft in Q3, meaning also our bike rides are counted with the overall ride. So when it's winter and less people take bike rides, there's less of those less expensive rides. And when more people go to the airport in Q4 to travel for the holidays, there's longer distance, more expensive rides. We didn't see any major changes to base pricing. And in fact, we're seeing service levels improve dramatically. So from Q2 to Q4, ETAs improved by 30%, and that brings down the dynamic or elevated part of pricing.
So when it comes to driver supply, we're still seeing concerns there for all the gig economy companies. What's your strategy to compete with those other companies, given that some drivers don't want to get in a car with another person? They'd prefer to just deliver a meal, and that's a business that you're not in.
Yeah, I mean, new driver activations are up 50% year over year. It's returning at a really fast pace. The concerns or questions that existed, call it in the first half of last year, compared to where we ended, we're in a much better position, extremely confident. If you compare our return of labor to that of the hospitality or retail industry, we're far outpacing that return to work. And if you just zoom out and think about what other option is there where you can turn on and off work and earn $20 to $30 an hour? There's no other option. And historically, rideshare drivers earn more money than delivery drivers.
What kind of risk does it pose to profitability, though, if this shortage continues, let's say quarter after quarter, and you have to deal with this labor issue repeatedly?
Yeah, but I mean, we're actually not seeing it repeatedly. So it is getting better. Service levels improved by 30% because supply has been less of an issue. So we could talk about, a hypothetical if that was true, but it's no longer the case that that's as much of a concern. So we feel great about our position, about the balance improving again, which ETA is a great measure of balance. And we're also getting ready for this a bigger return of demand of riders. We're going to continue to incrementally invest on the driver's side, something that we've done historically, I'd say well, and in COVID had to do with much more difficult conditions.
All right. Now, on that note, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, when he was last on the show at the end of last quarter, made this prediction about riders. Take a listen.
I am quite confident that next year we will be hitting records, all-time records in terms of mobility bookings. I'll make that prediction now.
Would you be willing to make that same prediction that Lyft will hit pre-pandemic records for riders in that span of time?
I'm not going to provide any new guidance. So what we have said is that we're cautiously optimistic that we will exceed our growth rate from last year on top line, and we remain cautiously optimistic, which would be a very good thing.
Now, I have to ask you this story about a potential kidnapping attempt by a Lyft driver in Brooklyn. It's getting a lot of attention. The rider says she tried to file a police report. She couldn't because Lyft didn't carry the license plate. She said she didn't get a call from Lyft or an apology. What's the status of this case, and what are you doing to investigate and make sure this doesn't happen and that this person, this suspect, potentially is brought to justice?
I'm not familiar with the specific case. I can tell you that license plate is something that we track. And my guess is that there has been a call placed to that individual, both the driver and rider, to determine what has happened. And I would just emphasize all of the things that we've done on safety over the past several years. A feature called silent escalation, where a driver or rider in an unsafe situation can tap a button silently. And we've partnered with ADT to provide any emergency services that would be necessary. We also look at any anomalies in route. If someone stops for a long period where they shouldn't, we ask both rider and driver if they're okay and if they need any of those ADT provided services. So again, I can't comment on that specific incident in question, but I can say safety is incredibly important to us and something that we continue adding more products to.
All right. You also released your first sexual assault incident report back in October. Is that something you plan to do regularly? When will we see the next one?
We haven't made that decision yet. Our focus is on making sure we provide safe rides. And if that helps do that, then that's something that we can consider. We've continued to improve, again, those safety features. And when you compare it to alternative modes of transportation, like the modes like taxis that came before us, having identity, having license plate, having all this information is leading to safer outcomes. That's one of the reasons we started this business. And that's one of the things that we get up every day working hard to improve.